you always want to do what you say you're going to do. So if you're wholesalers, if you say you're going to close in a certain date, close on that certain date or before. And that's true with the wholesaler and the private lender. So always do what you say you're going to do. Don't make excuses. Just do what you say you're going to do. And I would also say that in terms of the dues, when you're using your, when you got a handyman or whoever is doing your work, actually it's usually a lot of people, let's say your crew, make sure that you're working with people that you trust. And if you've never done this before, then you can go talk to friends and get a referral from a friend of a friend.
You're listening to the Rich State of Mind Show, the podcast made to make you the total package in the entrepreneurial world and give you what we call a rich state of mind. If you are here looking to learn about real estate investing, marketing, elevating your business, and developing your mindset to get to the next level, then you are at the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join our community on richstateofmind.com. Now here's your host, Anthony Ritchie.
Hey, Tyrus, thanks for taking the time this afternoon. On this episode, we're going to be talking about flipping and how, we can find the best deals in order to do that, flipping real estate. So if you could please just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you having me on, by the way. So I have been buying and selling, flipping houses for a little over 30 years now. And I started in Los Angeles. I'm currently living in Austin, Texas. And I started in Los Angeles a number of years ago, and the first 6 years of me and my real estate journey basically were pretty rough. The first 6 years, one of the individuals that I was following, a so-called guru, I guess, or expert, said get the pre-foreclosure list. And I didn't really know anything. So I got the pre-foreclosure list and I went door knocking. So they said, go door knocking and try to buy this house prior to it going into foreclosure. And I did that. I knocked on a number of doors, and I do not recommend door knocking. Now, you can be successful at it, but you got to keep in mind that a lot of these people, they're emotionally tied to their house. And one guy actually pulled a gun on me. So that was pretty much an end to my door knocking. And then I listened to some other folks. It's actually a husband and a wife team. And they told me, well, get the REO list. The REO, basically real estate owned list. And it's basically after someone has been foreclosed on and the house didn't sell at the auction. So it went back to the lender. So, and you can be successful doing that. But I tried, and I was not successful at that at all. As a matter of fact, some people, if you spend like 10, 20, or $30 million and buy in bulk, you can be successful. But you got to spend a lot of money or already have a close relationship with that REO manager. And then another guy told me, well, need to do the lease option to purchase process, need to do that. So long story short, I wasted 6 years of my time. And Anthony, I don't give up easy. I'm one of these people that keeps fighting. I'm very determined. So I was almost about to give up. And then I walked into the Los Angeles Real Estate Investors Club. It's one of the largest real estate investor clubs in LA. And I walked in, and there were probably 300 people, investors, inside the meeting. And right inside the door was this big table, and it had flyers on it, pictures of houses and so forth. And a lot of these flyers were wholesale deals that wholesalers had. And the picture, and had the what it's worth, the ARV, the after repair value, what they sell it for. And basically, some of those are like, it's worth $400,000. I can pick it up for $300,000. So long story short, I I was going through and I noticed these flyers and I got to scratching my head. I'm like, why am I doing this the hard way? I mean, I didn't even know wholesalers existed. So when I walked into that Real Estate Investors Club meeting, everything changed for me. I mean, my life totally changed. And then as the months went on, I went on to buy wholesale deals, and I got to be pretty good friends with one of them. And he actually bought a wholesale commercial deal. So when him and his partner, when they bought it for at least $1 million of equity, and they were renting out the other side of it. So
Oh, wow.
buying wholesale deals is where it's at. It's much more streamlined. It's very efficient. It takes all the stress and anxiety out of flipping, instead of me going to the owner and trying to negotiate a good price. Might as well go to the wholesalers already done the heavy lifting for me. So that changed everything for me.
So we talked about, just being able to acquire the deal. Now, let's talk a little bit about your process. What were some do's and don'ts you learned after you acquired the deal, getting a house flipped, getting it financed, you're meeting your deadlines? What was that like?
Well, basically, do's and don'ts. Well, you always want to do what you say you're going to do. So if your wholesalers, if you say you're going to close in a certain date, close on that certain date or before. And that's true with the wholesaler and the private lender. So always do what you say you're going to do. Don't make excuses. Just do what you say you're going to do. And I would also say that in terms of the do's, when you're using when you got a handyman or whoever is doing your work, actually it's usually a lot of people, let's say your crew, make sure that you're working with people that you trust. And if you've never done this before, then you can go talk to friends and get a referral from a friend of a friend. Another good source is agents. Agents or real estate agents. They are held to a higher standard. And generally, if you have no idea what, a tile person or electrician or whatever, if you don't have any idea, go to them and they'll usually refer you to people that know what they're doing and they trust them. So it's kind of like a referral from a friend of a friend.
Gotcha. Contractors.
Well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but contractors, when you're always have everything in writing. Whatever, let's say you're working with a tile guy or a girl, young lady, whatever, have everything in writing. And what I do is I purchase materials directly from either Lowe's or Home Depot or whoever is selling it. I buy it directly from them, or I set up an account so I don't get gouged on that. Also, the other thing that's important is you don't want to pay a large upfront fee when you have a contractor or a subcontractor or a sub. I pay in increments, and I save my last payment until everything is all complete and it's approved. So that's a good way. And just working with people that that helps.
Yeah, that was something that I was going to ask because so right now I'm in the process of doing a renovation loan, and they get paid per increment, after inspection. And I've noticed that works out a lot for people. Especially, I would say my recommendation to people is like, hey, if you want to do your first flip, if you can find a off-market deal where the numbers make sense, try the renovation loan, because at least you got some supervision, right? Mm-hmm. Because if it's like I call it like a naked flip. If it's like a naked flip, it's you, contractor, hard money lender, right? And if obviously a lot of room for profit, but I always say, low barrier entry. If you're not too sure, but you want to get your feet, put your pinky toe in the pool.
Right.
I always say that's a good way to get started. What do you think? Is that something that you would recommend to somebody? Or you're like, hey, just dive in there and try?
Well, I would always buy from wholesalers. I'm
Okay.
really big on wholesalers. And I would also buy in a city that's in your own backyard. It's your own city. So
okay.
I live in Austin. I have bought out of state, but it's much harder. Nowadays, when I buy properties, I buy in Austin or surrounding areas because I know that the market really well, I also can go and visit that house. I can also go and visit the work that's being done. Because a lot of times, if you do this, out of state, you're just asking for trouble. So if at all possible, buy wholesale and buy local. So local really helps. So you can go and check on the work that's being done along the way.
Yeah, a few people that I've talked to, when they've said that they've been pretty successful buying real estate out of the area, is that they had boots on ground. And I'd say 60% they knew people out there already. And then 40% I've heard of people like building relationships out there. I think through property managers, and then maybe a property manager knows a good contractor, and then it's kind of trial by error. I've heard good stories. I've heard horror stories. But I just, like I said, it works for some people, but I just never saw myself doing something like that out of my local area. And because my wife wanted me to invest, in like the Midwest, because the return on the investment is pretty good out there. But I'm like, if I can't go over there and see it, I get anxiety. That's my anxiety about it. I want to be able to pop up and see it. The only thing I would feel comfortable with being out of state, if it was millions of dollars and it was running itself, and I could it's okay to go out there every quarter. But if it's like a residential property, those require more micromanagement.
Yeah, it is possible to do the out-of-state investing. Some people are very successful at it, and you're right. It helps to have boots on the ground, someone local. I don't recommend it as your first choice. I recommend buying in your own city if at all possible, depending on where you're at. But yeah, I mean, they both can be successful, but I prefer local investing.
Same here as well. When it comes to hard money lender, what is your relationship like with them, and what are your usual terms? I've heard 20% down. I've heard once you get a good relationship, they don't ask for anything. They'll finance the whole deal because they know they get their money. Explain that process, please.
Well, hard money lenders, I use private lenders, which are people that have, they're wealthy people that have their own money. And then hard money lenders are basically, well, you know what they are, but basically hard money lenders have access to a lot of other people's money, right? And then there's what I refer to as a hybrid. They're hard money lenders by nature, but they're being very, very competitive. That's what I prefer. So the hybrid, which again is a hard money lender that's being competitive, their origination points to get the loan is like a 1.5, whereas a hard money lender that's not competitive is more like 3 or 4 on their origination points. And the same way with the interest rate, they're being more competitive. Interest rates for hard money lenders the typical hard money lender is 10, 12, 13%. But someone that's competitive, a hard money lender that's competitive, their rate's more like 8, 8.5. So I like those hybrids, if you will.
What are origination points? Sorry.
Pardon?
What do you mean? What do you mean by origination points?
Origination points, basically. So let's make the numbers easy. Let's say the loan is $100,000. So if I have a 1% origination, that's 1% of the 100,000. So they're going to charge me $1,000 to initiate and close that loan. So that's the origination or the point. The origination points.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds kind of similar, like earnest money. It sounds like earnest money deposit almost.
Well, it's not really earnest money. It's the point is where that's straight off the top. The hard money lender takes that money straight off the top. It goes right into their bank account.
Yeah.
So that's the origination point. Hard money lenders make their money on the origination and the interest rate. That's where they make the bulk of their money. So anyone that's being competitive on that origination point or points is, in my mind, worth keeping in your Rolodex.
Speaking of competitive, what would be a good, if I'm shopping around, what would be a good terms that I'm looking for with a hard money lender or a hybrid one? Is it that 15, 20% down? Is it? more or
Well,
less?
in terms of down, I mean, there are some hard money lenders or hybrids that will. It really depends on the price. I mean, if you walk in with a wholesale deal, then they are well protected. So there's no, if you're buying it right, there's no reason for you to come up with 20% down, because they are well protected. And it just really depends on the individual and the company that you're dealing with. But I would say 5 to 10% is competitive.
Okay. Wow, that's really good actually.
Yes. And I've got some that are pretty competitive that I keep in, that I use, and I can give you their names and contact numbers later on, but I don't want to do it over the podcast because they're kind of personal and that thing, but I can get it to you.
Also, I really appreciate that.
Sure.
What are you providing to them to say, hey, this is a good deal? What do you show to them?
The sold comps, the ARV, the sold comps is very important. I provide my experience. I show them my experience. I provide the wholesale deal. If it's 300,000 and I'm buying it for 200 or 210, you're well protected. So I show them the sold comp. I show them what I can buy this deal at, because it's all about risk, right? So if I walk in with a lot of equity, then their risk is a lot less. So it really just depends. I mean, in terms of private lenders, true private lenders, I can get in with nothing down. But these are private lenders are actually individuals. They're wealthy people. They're not hard money lenders. So it depends on who you're dealing with. But to answer your question on the hybrid lenders, if I buy it right, 5, 10% is common.
And then and that's down. And then how much interest rates were we talking about? We were talking about 8% interest rates.
It varies. The Fed raised rates recently, as you probably know, so people are going to, bump their rates up a little bit. But a competitive hybrid is like 8.5, 8.25, 8.5. And the origination is also competitive, 1.5 or so. But to answer your question, about 8.5 is competitive for the hybrid.
And then how long are you looking to usually do your flips? Is usually kind of take, depend on your deal, or you're like, hey, I try to do 3 to 4 months every time?
Well, you mean the term? What is the term?
Well, the term, I mean, from my understanding, the term, because you need time to also sell the home. But yeah, we could go through that. So first, how long does it usually take, your timeline to usually try to flip a home, make it ready to sell? And then how long are your terms with your lenders?
Well, the term, I usually go no more than a year.
Yeah.
And that's the term. In my area, again, I'm in a hyper seller's market. So I can sell it just like that because there's limited inventory and a lot of people coming this way. It usually takes a couple months to fix it up. So I buy it, I fix it up a couple months, and then I put it back on the market. So I can sell it within 3 months of actually purchasing it.
Have you ever staged your homes before? I interviewed a couple. Staged them with furniture.
Oh, staged. I have. There again, it depends on the market. I was buying in Atlanta. I bought in Los Angeles. I bought in different areas. It all depends on the area. I used to live in LA, and I would go to Las Vegas, and look at properties and buy properties there. So it all depends on the area. Here, there's no need to stage them.
Okay.
If it's a buyer's market or a market that's kind of flat, then yeah, I'm going to stage it. I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm going to put some vanilla scents in there. I'm going to do everything I can to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Cook some cookies, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Right. For that open house. You have a real estate agent, or are you licensed?
Do I have a real estate agent?
Yeah, when you sell your properties, how does that happen?
I usually don't need one. As a matter of fact, when I put it on the market, there's usually a few buyers agents that call me. I normally don't have to use an agent.
Okay.
To a seller's agent because of the market that we're in. I mean, I can put a house out on the market, and within a week or two, I've got several full price offers.
That's awesome. That's
So there's no need to in the market that I'm at, but other people are in different markets, so you do what you have to do to sell it.
awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your book. So it's called Get the Deals Now. What made you want to write that?
Good question. Very good question. There's one of the reasons that I do what I do, Anthony, is because of those first 6 years that I shared with you. They were really, really hard 6 years. So I wrote this book to help people avoid that problem, to basically learn how to buy from wholesalers and streamline their process. So that's why I wrote the book. And I wrote the book, it was like 3 years ago. And I just want to help people. And everybody that I come by and I deal with, I really want them to be successful. So that's what got me motivated.
That's what I've actually liked about the real estate, world, is that everybody's fairly, generous with their information that they give. I have yet to meet one person that's stingy. My friend that I talked to, he's in a similar world with this kind of the similar genre of podcast, and he does real estate as well. He said he ran into one person. He was just like, what the heck? Everybody shares information. Yeah. Everybody wants to see each other succeed, because maybe whatever deal that works for me don't work for me, works for you. And I just share it. Hey, bro, I can't really close on this. Maybe this will fit you. Right. And then that person usually, repays the favor down the road. And, hey, I know that you looked out for me, man. This doesn't work for me. Maybe it will for you. Worst case scenario, maybe you can wholesale the deal or whatever. Do something with it. But I've seen it's a lot of give in the community, and I really appreciate that.
It's all about relationships.
Yes. It's a relationship business, people business.
I focus on making other people money. So if I can make other people money, then they reciprocate. It comes back. I mean, I don't expect it.
Yes.
But when you focus on helping other people, it invariably comes back to you.
They don't forget. Yeah. I know I haven't forgotten when people have helped me. And whenever something comes up, I like, oh, you know what? Let me email such and such. Hey, this opportunity came about. It didn't work for me, but maybe you want that storage unit,
Right.
All right. So in the book, you talk about, you have the 5 pillars of success. What are those in particular? We might have like grazed on them, but not really gave them a definitive name.
Sure. So I will kind of, I know we're kind of limited on time here, but I will go through some of what we do. So basically, what I do is I focus on the success path, and the success path is 5 pillars or 5 legs, if you will. The first one is buying from wholesalers, finding wholesalers and buying wholesale deals from them. The second one is using private lenders, sometimes hard money or hybrid lenders, but preferably private lenders to fund these wholesale deals. The third leg is money partners. Sometimes, let's say the deal is, the lender will, let's say the ARV or what we think it's worth is $400,000, and we can buy it for $320,000. But the lender will only lend 300. So we're short 20,000. So that third leg is money partners. And we bring in money partners if there's a gap or a shortage. And some people don't need a money partner. They bring in their own 20,000. Other people will bring in a money partner to close on the deal. And sometimes that gap on the bigger properties, that gap is more like 60 or 70,000. So we bring in money partners to close on the deal. And the fourth leg is making the repairs, but not just making the repairs, Anthony. We're making strategic repairs based on our experience of what sells, and also based on the market in the area. So if we're dealing with a middle-class area, they're expecting certain materials in that area. So we focus on the materials that are going to do well in that area. And then finally, the fifth leg is selling the house quickly. And if you don't mind, I'll go through each one a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
So the first leg, finding wholesalers and buying wholesale deals from them. When we do this, it solves two problems. Two of the biggest problems when you're flipping houses is buying deals low enough. I mean, everybody can find the owner, but you got to get the owner to come down to a price low enough to where it makes sense for us to buy. So when we buy from a wholesaler, the wholesaler's already done the heavy lifting for us. We don't have to worry about the negotiation. The wholesaler's done that for us. And then we also we use the private lenders to come up with the all cash. That's what gives us the ability to pay all cash as the private lender. So we solve those two problems when we're buying from wholesalers. Now, when we buy from wholesalers, we got to ask ourselves, what is a wholesale deal in my specific city? Because we all know, every city is different, right? So a wholesale deal, and let's say in a buyer's market, wholesale deal there is more like 60 to 65% of ARV, or what we think it's worth. A wholesale deal where I'm at in a seller's market, it's more like 80% of ARV. And just as a side note, when I buy a house, I try to be in my market. I have to be very careful and make sure that the sold comps are solid. But when I buy it, it's going to be, when I sell it, take it back. When I sell it, it's going to go for more than asking price. I'm going to have a lot of people chasing these properties. So a wholesale deal in the seller's market is more like 80% of ARV. And then a normal or flat market, a wholesale deal is 70% of ARV. So the first step is, okay, know your market. Another reason to stay local, right? Stay in your own backyard. You'll know your market. And if you don't know your market, we can easily show you how to basically figure out what market you're in. But we look at things like our current inventory compared to last quarter and last year. We look at things like days on market, price per square foot, jobs, et cetera. And that will lead us to what market we're in if you don't already know what market you're in.
So just to be clear for everybody that's listening, ARV, ARV, after repair value. So when Tyrus was talking about 60% of ARV, we were talking about, let's say, make easy math, 100 grand. If you can get the house for 60 grand, you're in the green. And then hopefully you're looking at maybe no repairs, not going anything more than up to maybe 80% up to 80% ARV.
Well, if you're in a seller's market, 80% of ARV. If you're in a buyer's market, 60%, 60 to 65%.
That's home cost of home and repairs?
Yes.
Oof.
Out the door, because it's whatever my cost is, right?
Yeah.
So it's what I pay for it plus the repairs.
Yeah, and then you definitely need to find a wholesaler then. Because you're talking about buying it for 40, 20 grand probably of renovations, put you at 60 grand to sell for 100.
Yeah, right. And ARV, just to elaborate a little bit further, after repair value. So basically that is based on sold comps, recent sold comps. And recent is within a 1 mile radius within 6 months. So recent sold comps is how we arrive at that ARV.
And then also you talk about strategic repairs. You're talking about, hey, we try to make sure we hit that kitchen and that bathroom up. Those are the first two things we try to hit up.
Absolutely. The first thing is curb appeal. People pull up, it's a curb appeal. Some people, if it's not well done, they'll keep driving. But yeah, curb appeal. And as a matter of fact, I was going to talk about that in a second, but the roof, the lawn, you power wash the driveway, everything that just make everything look really clean. And sometimes you got to put in new lawn, new sod.
You're the first person to say that. Curb appeal.
Curb appeal, yeah. And the roof, like I say, people pay attention to that.
Man, look at that thing.
Especially if they're going to live there, right? So the other thing that I look at, I kind of learned the hard way on this one is the slope. If you just kind of, maybe you don't have to do it in Phoenix, but just imagine, again, we're going to buy this property, right? We're thinking about buying this property. So this is when I'm buying it. When I go by and look at the house, I'm looking at the slope I'm imagining that it's pouring down rain. Is the rain going away from the house or is it going toward the house?
Yeah, the first thing you have to think about was the driveway.
Yes.
Does the driveway have its slope?
Because I had one, I learned the hard way on it. You know, when it poured down rain, the back was flooded. The back, it is an add-on, but the back part was flooded and it was nothing but a nightmare. But anyway, so.
Good to know.
Yes, it's all good, right? It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with the wholesalers, it's important to be familiar with their questions. There's two questions that I know they'll ask you. One is, how are you going to close? And your answer should be all cash. Next, how quickly are you going to close? You say 7 days or less. Now, we can close that quickly because we're using private lenders or hard money lenders to close. And they know the game. We're not using a bank, you know, a traditional bank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. We're not using that. It takes them 30 to 60 days to close. So when you're dealing with wholesalers, you got to be prepared for those two questions.
All right. So, because usually it's like this is like within a week or two. So your wholesaler, he'll sign over. What is that? Well, he does his agreement with the buyer, and then you have yours with the wholesaler. You forward that with your comps and all that information to your lender, and then the lender is, you know, within days is giving you the money so you could give it to the wholesaler.
Yes, close. Yes.
To close, yeah.
Basically, what happens with the wholesaler is they have an agreement with the owner of the house, and it's got an assignment clause in it. Yep. And they can assign it to whoever, and to me in this case.
And usually, correct me if I'm wrong, usually they do disclose. Well, they don't disclose how much they're getting, but they at least say they let the seller know, hey, I have equitable rights to this property. And so when, you know, people like you buy, they understand that they will get the difference. You sold it to me for 50, Tyrus is buying it for 55.
Right. And I have no problem with that. I want them to make money. I want the wholesaler to make money because that way they stay in business and they keep on doing this. So I have no problem paying their price. As long as it's a good wholesale deal, I'll pay it.
Yeah, you got me wanting to re-engage because I was doing, you know, a little driving for dollars here and there. If I see a house, I'm like, oh, let me stop by and take a picture. I have a deal machine that I would use. I take a picture and it skip traces everything. And then I send out some mailers. But yeah, you're right. You know, if I'm just trying to flip, why not cut to the chase and just look up wholesalers in my area? And if somebody, you know, makes $5,000, that's fine. Small potatoes in comparison to what you know, could make once you flip.
It's funny you should mention that because in another source of mine, I go over the vacant properties and you're driving around or you have someone else drive around, right? You find something that looks like it's a good deal. One thing you can do is contact one of your wholesalers and get them to negotiate with the owner instead of you doing it.
Oh, okay.
And you just have an agreement, a side agreement. Say, hey, you know, if you get this, we're gonna either you pay me X amount or I'll buy it for X. But you do that. Let the wholesaler do the hard work.
Okay.
Because that's what they do. They negotiate, right? They're good at negotiating. So
that's and then you have an agreement. Hey, if they agree to sell, you have to sell it to me. Don't go on your buyer's list and
right. I brought this to your attention. Don't cut me out of the deal. So
gotcha. Do you have a template of that?
I have a chapter in another. It's not in this book, but I've got some documentation. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, people. I always try to build up my resource page and then send it to, even if it goes to another website. It's just as long as somebody has the opportunity to find that, use it, and then obviously you get the traffic. I try to do that because those are like those in-between questions that people you wouldn't even know to look that up until it came up, and you're like, oh crap, I probably need some type of verbiage on how to type this up, so I protect myself. Right. So that's pretty cool. But this has been a wealth of information, and I appreciate you breaking everything down as well. And I definitely want to make sure we have your book in the links in the description, and also you will be inviting people to a Zoom call. You said
yes. Yes. So basically, I've got a Zoom call coming up May the 14th. Let me get to it. It's at 1 o'clock. So basically on the Zoom call, it's a free Zoom call, May the 14th, 1 p.m. Central Time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everyone that attends has, when you leave, you have at least one wholesaler's contact information, name and contact information in the city that you're investing in.
That's pretty cool. And I've never even heard of something like that. So I'm going to have to tune in myself, man. That's pretty awesome. And I always like to ask everybody this, touch on it just a little bit. I call it, what's your rich state of mind? What is your big why as to why after 30 years, you're still doing this and still loving it?
Very, very, very good question. And my answer, I have to go back to my beginning. Those first 6 years that were a struggle. I can't tell you how much of a headache that was. So what I do now is I'm teaching people so that they can streamline their process and buy deals quickly, buy them from the wholesalers. It's because I don't want people to waste their time. I know what it's like to waste time and distress and go through all that anxiety. So I don't want that for people. As a matter of fact, everybody that I've got 2 sons in their mid-20s. So everybody that I deal with, I make sure that they succeed. I do the very best I can to help them succeed. So it's all about success.
That's awesome, man. And I really appreciate your time, Tyrus. And like I said, please check out Tyrus's book, Get the Deals Now. I'll make sure I have a link in the description below. Is it on Amazon?
Yes, it is on Amazon.
So yeah, I know you have the link to the free version. I'm assuming that's the electronic version.
Yes.
And then also if you want a hard copy, it's going to be on Amazon. So I'll provide all that information, and then where everybody can follow you at on social media as well to find you. I like your process. I'm always a big fan of people that have very simple but clean looking websites. It's easy to go through. I say that because I had to go through the process of building my own website a couple of times. And so now every time I see a website that's put together pretty neatly, I'm I appreciate it, because I remember that whole process was grueling. And you don't want to detract people all right, where do I go to find this stuff? I'm trying to look for just how to contact this individual. So,
and I appreciate it, Anthony. I really do. If I could add one more thought, I realize that people are busy and they may or may not be able to listen to the podcast early enough before May the 14th. So I would also invite them to join my Facebook group. It's a private Facebook group. You just go to facebook.com/groups/getthedealsnow. And that way you can reach out to me. I can reach out to you. And if you miss this Zoom call upcoming, then we can get you on another one.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for your time, Tyrus. I really appreciate you being up here.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Anthony. Take care.
Thank you for sticking with us from the start of the episode. Please share our show with friends and family, visit our YouTube channel, and view more of our content on richstateofmind.com. See you next week on the Rich State of Mind Show.